What's up, y'all? It's Ty back here with another video. And in this video today, guys, we're going to be ranking each and every free agent that is upcoming in the 2024 free agency period. Now, I do want to say when I say every free agent, I'm not actually talking about every free agent. So, for example, a Tyrese Maxey. Look, Tyrese Maxey, he's going back to Philly. So, like, is he a free agent? I guess technically, but Philly's going to give him the max and nobody's going to be able to do anything about it. So, he's heading back to Philly for sure. Some of the other guys, so such as like a Timberwolves, Jordan McLaughlin, I didn't include him because, look, who even knows if he gets another NBA contract? He should. I like J-Mac, but a lot of those lower tier free agents are not going to be featured on in this video as well. Let's look at OG Anunoby, who, look, the Knicks traded for OG Anunoby. He's going to go back to New York. And when comparing OG Anunoby to all of the rest of the guys on this free agency, I think he's S tier. He's a great defender. He's going to knock down shots at a high level. In New York, he averaged 14 points as well as playing that great defense, being a kind of 3-and-D wing that New York needs. I think OG Anunoby is great. I'm putting him at S tier. Caleb Martin up next. I don't know, man. I mean, Caleb Martin had a really good playoff run. What was it? 2 years ago now. For Caleb Martin, he's fine. He's going to be a solid role player in the NBA. But you just can't expect him to be like, he's still young, but you can't expect him to be like an OG Anunoby type level. Maybe B tier. Like, he's not bad, but he's just not great. King James, S tier. Now, Bron, it's interesting. I don't even know where he is going to ultimately end up. And although and Bron are now saying like, oh, he doesn't care about that, I bet he ends up playing with Bronny. So we'll see what happens with that whole thing. But LeBron, it's crazy. What is he, 40 years old now? I mean, at least close. He is S tier for sure. Mo Bamba up next. I mean, D tier, C tier. I thought when Mo Bamba came into the league, he had so much potential. Just never really panned out. And it's kind of sad to see, but C tier is where he's at. Patrick Williams, another guy, he's probably going to go back to Chicago, but he is obviously contract eligible. Let's talk about Patrick Williams. When he got drafted, I mean, the Bulls kind of got flamed for drafting him as early as they did. And although Patrick Williams hasn't necessarily broke out per se, I think he's steadily improved. You know, 3-point percentage is good. Shooting a career 41% from behind the 3-point line. Defensively is really good. I expect Patrick Ewing, he's never going to be that level. I expect Patrick Williams to have a big, what would it be, 5th, 4th year in the league and really level up his game. I think right now he is B tier, but if he can stay healthy, really solid NBA player. Christian Wood, man, I don't even know where to go with you. I guess C tier, he still shoots the ball well. Offensively is a stud, but on the defensive end of the court, he gets sizzled, fried like a piece of bacon. Russell Westbrook, I'll say this. Russell Westbrook was very valuable to what the Clippers did. He was very valuable, a bench spark, but at the end of the day, he's aging, he's gonna get worse. I'm going to go C tier for Russell Westbrook. He's just getting older and older. I don't see it with Big Russ. KCP up next. I might be the most overhyped guy for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but he's going to knock down shots. He's going to play great defense. He is consistent at doing those two things. I think A tier is where he belongs. Who knows where he ends up, but I'm telling you right now, KCP deserves to be paid. Paul George up next, S tier. I mean, there is really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If I have to end up moving some guys down, I'm obviously willing to do that. And honestly, let's just move some guys down because I'm too high on some of these guys right now. I'm going to leave Patrick Williams in B tier. I'm going to move KCP down. I'm going to move OG Anunoby down A tier. My thing with Paul George is this. He's getting older, but it's one of those things like he's still good. He's still valuable, especially in the playoffs. He's shown at his peak what he can do. It's just the inconsistency with Paul George. You never know what you are going to get out of him. Saddiq Bey up next. Saddiq Bey was in Atlanta, then went to the Detroit Pistons, and now is back in Atlanta. Look, he is turning 25 years old. In Atlanta, did start a lot of games, averaging 14 points this season. I think Saddiq Bey is due for a breakout year, especially on the offensive end of the court. I'm going to go B tier with Saddiq Bey. Josh Richardson up next. He can't really stay as healthy cocky as he used to for the last few years. I'm going D tier with the guy. Precious Achiuwa up next. A guy that I think has such a bright future, especially in a New York look. I mean, the Knicks, I don't think are gonna get rid of him. I think he is going to be around in the next seasons. Great defender. Again, young, promising future for Precious. I'm going to go B tier. I think he should be valuable. Again, another young guy that I would look to add. Kyle Anderson, slow-mo. Look, for as much as I like Kyle Anderson, when I'm ranking these free agents, I think D tier is where he belongs. And it comes at this. He had a rough season. His season was very rough. Kyle Anderson needs to find the right fit considering he can't really shoot the basketball. And all of those things are why I'm putting slow-mo in D tier. Look, I hope the Timberwolves do re-sign slow-mo, but he comes at a cost of having. Batum up next. I mean, he was pretty valuable in the playoffs. It kind of makes me want to put him in C tier, but I don't think I can. Like, Batum is just old. He's aging. And at this stage, when I'm looking at, who are some of these free agents that I really want to target, Batum has, been kind of a journeyman, man. He's been good wherever he is, but he's going to be 36 years old next season, and I think we have to see that. Malik Beasley up next. I mean, look, if I put Beasley at C tier, I'm going to have to move Caleb Martin up, but I think this is what I want to do. Malik Beasley is still in his prime. He's a great three-point shooter, and when you're comparing him to the guys at D tier, I think Bees should be more valuable. Kind of for the Milwaukee Bucks was Mr. Consistent. With everything the Bucks did this season, Malik started in 77 games, three-point percentage of 41%. I know defensively still wasn't necessarily great. I'm going to say it, Malik Beasley is still in his prime. I hope he comes back to Minnesota. We need a absolute sharpshooter like that. Pat Bev, I mean, look, I'm not going to go F tier with you, Pat Bev. But you're aging. You're getting old. And so you're going to be right in there with your friend Russell Westbrook, who, I think deserve to be at the same tier at this point of their career. Miles Bridges, look, I don't, as a human, he'll never have my respect, to be honest with you. But as a basketball player specifically, Miles Bridges is good. I know in Charlotte he had an expanded role, but he should be valuable. I'm going to go A tier. Look, if you don't include the off the court issues, maybe A tier is where he belongs. If you do include that, obviously lower on the guy, but I think that's where he belongs. I'm going F tier with Alec Burks. I genuinely don't think he can come out of F tier. Here's why. Like, I know Alec Burks in Detroit was a bucket getter, but when he went to New York, he did absolutely nothing for him. He's going to be 33 years old here. I just don't know if I see where Alec Burks can be that valuable. Again, in his prime was great. I'm not hating on that. And actually in Detroit was okay. I'll go D tier with him. It's just, he's a bucket getter, but he's old. He's not going to be great defensively. That's the problem. Max Christie, I'm going to put him at C tier, and here's why. He's young. Like, he's young. So when you talk about where do these free agents rank, has Max Christie done a lot in his short career so far? Not really. But has he been given the chance to do anything? Not really. Like, Max Christie, again, still young, should be back in LA. I'm going to go C tier. They need to prioritize keeping him on the roster. Claxton, I'm going to be higher on Claxton than most people are. Here's why for Nicholas Claxton. If you go back to just last season with Nicholas Claxton, last season for the Brooklyn Nets, Claxton was fantastic in Brooklyn. You look at, he finished 9th in the Defensive Player of the Year voting, averaging 13 points, 9 rebounds. Wasn't as good this season, but I still think the potential is there. Going to be 25 years old next year. Definitely a guy the Brooklyn Nets need to keep in-house. Rocco didn't have a role this year. D tier, though. I still think, again, he's another guy who is getting older, aging. Still think D tier is where he belongs. Jay Crowder, I mean, again, another one of these guys that is just aging. A lot of these guys are probably going to get signed on minimum contracts. DeMar DeRozan up next. He's a low S tier, but he's S tier. Look, DeRozan is a low S tier, but he's still a guy at S tier that I think I want to see in a different setting. I do. And I know obviously a lot of guys are like, Ty, he's been great in Chicago, and he has. DeRozan has a switch he can flip. Dinwiddie, you're terrible, man. And I'm sorry if you're watching this video, but he is not good. He is a bucket, but I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie needs to go to a team where he can be that main guy. He can be that main guy because that's what he really needs. And in LA, I mean, off the bench, his stats were horrible. Absolutely horrible. I can't say he shot that poorly, but it's just like he's not a good defender. He's not very good. D tier is where I'm going with Spencer Dinwiddie. Andre Drummond, I mean, Is it bad that I have him higher than Christian Wood? Maybe Christian Wood needs more respect. Every time it seemed like Vucevic sat out, Drummond would end up with 20 rebounds. You know what you're getting as far as that is concerned, but as far as the full picture, I'm going to go C tier. I would, I'd like to see him with an expanded role. Fontecchio is solid. He looks good, man, and he's not necessarily that young, but in Detroit, averaged 15 points, played really good ball. I'm going to go C tier with Fontecchio. He showed a lot of promise in his short time in the league so far. Markelle Fultz, I'll go C tier. James Harden, he's old, man. I'm going to move DeRozan down a tier. I think S tier, we got to keep it exclusive. I know I initially put OG up there, which I think OG is so important to sign. James Harden's got to be at A tier. It's one of these things. I love Harden, but he's aging, and it's why one reason why I think with the Clippers, it's a tough situation. You got to try to keep that core intact, but it's just not going to work out, and they don't really have a future right now in LA. Gary Harris kind of revamped his career. I genuinely like what Gary Harris did this year. If you look at where Gary Harris was at, what was it, a year ago, 2 years ago, it was kind of sad to see because he was still young. Injuries hampered his career a little bit. But I feel like when Gary Harris has been able to stay healthy, he's been an overall winning player. I'm going to go C tier. He's a guy I personally would like on my team, a solid defensive player, can knock down shots. I'm going to go C tier with Gary Harris. I know people are like, him over Russell Westbrook? What? Trust me. Gary Harris is better. Oh, Mr. Tobias Harris, your paydays are over. Your paydays are over. I still think you're a solid NBA player. I'd be on the verge of putting you in A tier because at your peak, you were really good. I'm going to go B tier though. Like, in this upcoming free agency, would I rather have Tobias Harris or Kentavious Caldwell-Pope? I genuinely don't know how to answer that question. Tobias Harris doesn't do anything at an elite level. He doesn't defend at an elite level. He's not an elite shooter. He's just an overall a solid player that I am going to put in B tier. Isaiah Hartenstein, pay this man. Pay him. He is so good. I'm throwing him at A tier. I love Hartenstein. What he was able to do in New York was incredible. I hate to say it, before the New York Knicks, it's honestly a thing where one of the centers needs to go, and it's Mitchell Robinson. I just don't think Robinson fits their team right now. Re-sign Hartenstein. Let him play a big-time role, and I know he's a big-time target up there with James Harden, but you got to look at the age difference in the future of both players. Next up, Gordon Hayward. I know. Hate me if you want, Gordon Hayward. I know you were upset with your exit interview. Your wife's tweeted about it. All these things. Let me ask you guys this. What does the future of Gordon Hayward look like? I'll go D tier because, he's not worse than Alec Burks, but it's just like, I just don't know what that next role really does look like. Buddy Hield's interesting. Didn't really fit in Philly, but I'm going to put him right there with Malik Beasley. They're elite shooters. Outside of that, I don't know how much else they give you. Buddy, I might be a little higher on than Malik, but I still think they've got a really solid role in the NBA. Derrick Jones Jr., the Mavs are going to do anything to re-sign him. Talk about a guy who's kind of found his place is Derrick Jones Jr. He has found his place. Now, it's interesting to me with the Mavericks, it seems like the players who have played in Dallas, outside of maybe Kristaps, were best in Dallas. You look at Spencer Dinwiddie, he was best in Dallas. You look at Dorian Finney-Smith, he had a great time in Dallas. Christian Wood was better in Dallas than he was in LA. So that's one thing for me. It's like, I think Luka Doncic really does make the players around him better. And maybe I'm too high on Derrick Jones Jr., but he has been fantastic for the Dallas Mavericks. Tyus Jones, I think C tier is the right spot for him. Maybe B tier. The thing for me with Tyus is this. How high can you be on Tyus Jones? Because he is a floor general, and he's going to do that at a really solid, really high level. And he is consistent. Maybe B tier. I think B tier might be the right spot for Tyus Jones, who is a really good point guard. The future of Patrick Williams, your hope for him, obviously is probably higher than Tyus, but you're expecting more out of Tyus Jones. Kyle Lowry, you're just old, and that comes at a cost. I will give Kyle Lowry some credit. When Philadelphia did cut their rotation way down, he still found a way to make an impact, still can shoot the ball well. I'll go D tier, but he would not be high on my priority list. All right, whoever the worst player at D tier is, I'm going to move down, and honestly, I don't know who it is. I'm going to put Alec Burks at F tier. Najee Marshall. I like Najee Marshall, man, and I know throughout his career, he hasn't necessarily ever had the biggest role and done anything crazy or anything like that. But I do think, for me, when I'm looking at a team, He's a type of guy that I want to have on the court. He'll probably go back to New Orleans. It would surprise me if he does not. Shoots the ball decent. Just a really solid role player. I'm putting him at C tier. Next up, guys, we got D'Anthony Melton. I'm going to go D tier. In Memphis, played really good a couple of seasons ago. Injuries played a factor this season. I think D tier is the right spot, but he's still young. I'm going C tier. You know what? He's still young. I think his future is still really promising. I'm going to go C tier for D'Anthony Melton. Malik Monk. I love Malik Monk. I'm going to go B tier, but trust me, Malik Monk is going to get a big time payday because he is the definition of a bucket, man. He can create his own shots. He shoots really well from the 3-point line. He is going to get paid, and trust me, he deserves it. Marcus Morris up next. D tier, another guy that's old. He did end up in Cleveland, finding a decent role in the playoffs eventually, but D tier is where he belongs. Monte Morris. The problem with all of these guys is they've reached their prime. You look at the guys at D tier. Monte might still be in his prime. I'll take everybody at C tier for just having a brighter future. Royce O'Neal up next. Found a role in Phoenix. I never thought a year ago I'd be taking Derrick Jones Jr. over him, but it's where we're at right now. Okoro, I like Okoro's future, and I know it's crazy putting him at B tier. Steadily been improving the 3-point shot, been playing good defense. Kelly Oubre Jr. up next. I'll go B tier. Kelly Oubre Jr. was great this season. I mean, let's be honest. This Mason Plumlee D tier. What are you really doing here? Taurean Prince graded out pretty poorly this year, and he's a guy I don't hate. But when you're looking at guys that have bright futures, guys you don't want to necessarily look at re-signing for a lot of money, Taurean Prince is low on my chart here. He didn't have a productive season. The metrics bear that out. IQ, man, you got to do whatever it takes to re-sign IQ, man. You have to. A young, promising point guard should be one of the main core pieces for the Toronto Raptors. Siakam, you got to keep him in Indiana. I'm going S tier. Do I want to go S tier? It's like, this is where it gets tough. He's obviously better than IQ, but as far as priority and free agency where they at, it gets tough. I'm going to put him at S tier. I think Pascal Siakam is really, really good, and I think he levels up in the playoffs. Klay Thompson, man, I don't know. I'll go B tier. He's still a great shooter, but he's bad defensively now. Tristan Thompson up next, D tier. Xavier Tillman, D tier. It's like, these guys are fine. I don't know. Obi Toppin, probably going to get paid more than he should. He's a B tier guy. I think Obi Toppin's future is definitely there. Super athletic. Gary Trent Jr., another bucket. You know what? Throw him right there with Buddy Hield and Malik Beasley. He's a pure bucket, a great sharpshooter. Again, outside of that, doesn't give you a whole ton. Joe Val, I mean, he can put up some massive numbers, but he can also get played off the court. I'll throw him at B tier, but I don't know. Joe Val is interesting. James Wiseman, F tier. No, he's D tier. You're lucky you're young, James Wiseman, because you had another really bad year. DeLon Wright, I mean, D tier. He's just aging. He's still really solid defensively. Again, he's just aging and getting, this might be his last payday per se. Bruce Brown had a rough season, but I still do like Bruce Brown. He's in B tier, not quite as valuable as last year, but I think B tier is where Bruce Brown belongs. And last but certainly not least, D'Angelo Russell. I actually like D'Lo in LA. I think D'Lo's played well in LA. I think he's found a spot in LA. I just think he's inconsistent. You got to take the highs with the lows. I think B tier is where he belongs. I think, him compared to Tyus Jones, it's a coin flip. Who is the better point guard for a specific team? I like Tyus just as much as D'Lo, to be completely honest with you guys. But that's going to wrap it up for me ranking your best free agents. Obviously, age does play a factor. How I think their future plays a factor as well. But let me know your guys' thoughts on this down below in the comments. Who is I too high on, too low on? Drop a like on the video, guys. Subscribe if you're new. And as always, man, I love you guys. Have a blessed day.